the word chatat because in the annual cycle, this week is Parshas Chukas. It's been pointed out by Makbili. What does chatat mean? Meinida chatat hi, the water of the Paraduma. They take purified pure water and they put the ashes of the Paraduma in there, and the Paraduma is called a chatat. In what sense is it a chatat? Is it like a sin offering? There's no sin that's acquired that's been performed. Is it uh, is it a sacrifice of any sort? No, it's not a sacrifice by any means. There's no altar. The Kohen is in charge of it, but it's burnt outside the temple. There's nothing sacrificial about it. It's even kept to a higher standard than most sacrifice. It's level of purity. So what's going on here? Why is it called a chatat? And someone just asked me today, what does it mean al pirsha yisrof? What's al pirsha yisrof? Well, ra at the rab is it's bisara. Al pirsha yisrof, right? At the ma. Yeah. So what's the pure perish means? Basically, so al pirsha means perish is it's poopy. Wait a minute, you're supposed to put poopy into it? That's the guy who had a serious question. He's like, what's going on here? And the answer is, normally when we offer sacrifice in the temple, we remove the entrails. And we saw that they're supposed to be washed thoroughly. They're washed inside and outside. There's the michui and the hadacha, right? Okay. Two different verbs to describe different processes of washing out the kishkas so that they're clean before being burned on the altar. So the peresh is taken out of the intestines and just washed away before the entrails are burned on the altar. Whereas with the paraduma, they just burn it as is. They don't skin the paraduma necessarily. They just burn it whole. They shecht it and sprinkle the blood and all that, but it's just burned entirely. And that's the chiddush. Ora vet b'sara yisrof. Normally, if something is a chatat, what happens to the skin of the animal? Yeah, it's property to the kohanim. And what about the meat? That's eaten by the kohanim. And what about the perish inside the entrails? That's washed away before being burned on the altar. But in this case, the paraduma is entirely burned. That's what we learn. So this is called the chatat. In what sense is it called the chatat? And then we saw also that there is the two goats of Yom Kippur. One actually is a sin offering. It's processed in the temple like a sin offering. But the other one is a scapegoat, the Seir Lazazel. It's thrown off a cliff entirely, right? Okay. Entirely. There's not even an act of shechita there. Just goodbye goat, and it's destroyed. So in what sense is that a chatat? And the answer is, as we've said before, chatat does not necessarily mean a sin offering. Otherwise, it would be called something else without a dot in the tet. But there's a dot in the tet there, meaning it's in the peel form. To sin is in the pal form, the kal form, no dot in the tet. So chatat more accurately describes what? It means an atonement, an expunging of the sin. And it means like a scouring, like a kapara. It means cleaning something out. Like lichate? Yeah, like lichate. That's the modern Hebrew lichate, which means to disinfect. Comes from this shorish. So what does that mean? We've said this before regarding the so-called sin offering of the Nazir. The Nazir has to offer a chatat when he's done being a Nazir. And we said, Pshat followed by the Rambam and many of the Tanaim is that the Nazir didn't actually do anything wrong. He's a holy person. So why does he bring a so-called chatat at the end of his term of service? The answer, because he is now removing his holiness. Normally, a person goes up in holiness, he does not go down, right? Malim b'kodesh we're reading. But the Nazir is becoming less holy. So to remove this holiness, we need a chatat, some sort of process that purifies it. And that explains it. So this is a purification. This is a type of purification. So too, the chatat of the paraduma, no sin has been committed. This is just water that is used for purification. So it's called chatat. So too, the scapegoat. Oh, that's full of sins. But in this case, it's a chatat in that it purifies the Jewish people. It says that the scapegoat carries all the sins of the Jewish people, the Bnei Yisrael, out to the desert, and that's it, Eretz Gezerah. So it purifies the Jewish people. And that's why these and other situations are referred to as chatat, even though there's no sin. It means purification. Okay, so said the former, the Seir Lazazel, purifies the sins, the latter, the actual, the impurity, the ritual impurity.